Dodge wants to put a V8 back in the Charger. Lewis Hamilton wants to build a brand new Ferrari F40 successor and call it the F44. And Yuki Tsunoda, that swap that Red Bull did, I feel like it's kind of gotten bigger than the Red Bull team right now. I mean, the Red Bull team doesn't have a whole lot of success to speak of relative to where they were before. And this Yuki Tsunoda swap for Liam Lawson on the main team has taken on its own life. A lot of memes. I'll share a couple of those with you. But first, I want to talk just briefly about the Dodge Charger. They want to put a V8 back into it. And I think that's the right move. And I think that a lot of companies, so here's the thing, a lot of companies saw the writing on the wall and decided to make changes when they could. So they backed up. Porsche said a long time ago, hey, there's always going to be internal combustion in the 911. The manual transmission is going to exist for a lot longer. And they just kind of, I can't remember the exact date that they changed back from. They're like, oh, we're going to go all electric and let's just say 2030 or 2035, and they back that up. A whole bunch of different car companies have been doing that as well. And I can't necessarily say that I feel bad for the companies that didn't read the writing on the wall because everybody else is doing it. But now they're kind of late to the party, and it's a little bit of an embarrassment for them. Ford never capitulated. They never said we're going to take the V8 out of the Mustang, and they did all the better for it. As a matter of fact, for a second there, they were the last muscle car standing. Now, Chevy is still flirting with the electric Camaro SUV thing. If Dodge comes back with a V8 Charger, Ford has a V8 Mustang, then Chevy coming with an electric Camaro, I don't think that is going to be very advisable. Now, there's a little bit that I want to read. This article is from autoblog.com, and the title of the article is "A Legend Potentially Regained Its Heart." Now, this is interesting. Rumors are swirling that Dodge is planning to reintroduce the Hemi V8 to the Dodge Charger lineup in late 2026, marketing a potential return to its high-performance roots. Reports from Mopar insiders suggest that Stellantis engineers are actively working on making the classic engine fit within the redesigned Charger's platform. Now, that is cause to be excited. I actually saw the Dodge Charger at the Dallas Auto Expo. And I have to say that from the outside, the car actually looked really good. But when you walked up to it and you saw like nothing where a V8 should be, it was like low-key heartbreaking, and also I completely instantly lost interest. There was nothing to look at. I mean, think about it. Car guys and car gals love to look at the components of a car. You open the hood and there's nothing. Literally, why would you look at nothing? Why would you look at nothing? Even an electric motor, slightly exposed or something would be something for your eyeballs to focus on, but you got nothing? I'm sorry, that is not what an enthusiast wants. So good job on Dodge for possibly bringing back the V8. There's one other kind of active ingredient that I want to talk through. It says early reports of the newly released all-electric Charger Daytona suggests that sales are relatively weak, with dealers slashing prices as much as $21,000 in an attempt to rouse some enthusiasm for the new model. A return to a tried and true drivetrain might help drive interest in the new generation Charger, but we're a long way off from knowing anything official yet. I don't think that it's going to be too long before we see sports cars just going back to, regular engines and stuff. And I think that there is room for electric vehicles. I think that there's room for everything. Why? Because there are as many different preferences as there are people. Now, those do go into groups, and, sometimes these days, interested groups get a little bit too interested in the same thing, and that's a whole different conversation. But variety, free market, let people decide what they want to drive. Sorry. Now, the Dodge Charger did have the straight six. It was a twin turbo 3-liter straight six, the Hurricane engine, and it's going to actually start production in May. Personally, I think that's fine. It should be a lesser model for the people who don't want the full fat V8. Get the V6. Again, I think they should have developed a cool sports car like a la the Dodge Stealth to go along with it, but they didn't. And, they want to put it in the Charger. It's kind of a mismatch, but, at least it goes vroom, not wee. That didn't make sense. Strike that from your memory. Let's go on to Lewis Hamilton. I don't know which I want to read from. There was an article in Haggerty, and there's also one in Motor One. The Haggerty one, I think, is a little bit easier to read, but the Motor One has a little bit more information, I think. So, in short, Lewis Hamilton was interviewed and said, let's see, he was speaking to Motorsport, and Hamilton said he'd like to create an F40 successor called the F44. Makes sense. That's been his racing number forever. He said, one of the things I really want to do is design a Ferrari. I want to do an F44. Baseline of an F40 with an actual stick shift. That's what I'm going to work on for the next few years. I think it's amazing. And is it overreach for a Formula One driver to do that? I don't think so. Senna had a huge hand in the Acura / Honda NSX, depending where you're coming from. Adrian Newey is developing some Red Bull, I think it's Red Bull 17 supercar. And Lewis Hamilton with the F44, it might be one of the biggest projects in terms of prestige, because the F40 is like the holy grail of supercars. So to put a 44 on it, an F44, I think would... Yeah, that's a huge endeavor, but I mean, the guy's really into cars, and he's got, the money, the power, the swag, the influence. And I think that if that was released, if it was like a smallish V8, turbo or a twin turbo, kind of like the F40, then yeah, I could see it being a success, and I could see people just buying them, just selling it out right on opening day or what have you. Now, this wouldn't be the first time. So one more stat. F40, 2.9 liter V8 with a pair of notoriously laggy turbos, good for 470 horsepower, and I think it was 0 to 60 in like 2.4 seconds. Anyway, gorgeous car. Those stats that I got just now were from Haggerty.com. The article is Lewis Hamilton wants new bosses to build a Ferrari F40 successor. So if you want to go read that article, that's where to find it. Now, there was one more in Motor One, and they called out the fact that Ferrari already tried to do an F40 successor in the SP38. It was based on the 488 GTB. I took a look at it. It kind of looks, I'm looking at it right now, it kind of looks F40, but it kind of just looks like every other Ferrari. The one that I actually thought looked a lot more like the F40 would have been the F80, and that one, $3.1 million. That's insane. 1,184 horsepower. I did an episode on this one a little bit later. I did a video on this earlier this year, or maybe late last year. I couldn't decide what I was going to say. 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds. Like I said, 1,184 horsepower, and V6 twin turbo plug-in hybrid, and it's got a hybrid powertrain. I think it's too complicated. I think that was the problem with it. And even if you are wealthy enough to afford a $3.1 million car, do you want the headache? That much complication? What you want is purity. You want something that is built to function in the most effective, artful way that it can. And when you start adding turbos and 3 electric motors and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot of weight. It's a lot of bulk. You mess up the packaging, and it's not as good of a sports car as it could be. Gordon Murray's T50, I think, is a great example of that streamlined mentality. Lighter is better, purity, and I think it is just a very elegant car. I think I can find a clip of it. I want to put that up there. But I think, Ferrari F44 manual transmission, maybe a small V8 with twin turbo. I would love it. I would definitely support it. And if you guys want to donate, I will also buy it. I'm not holding my breath. And then the last thing is the Yuki Tsunoda swap taking on its own life. You know, Red Bull could have just pressed the easy button, put Yuki Tsunoda into the driver's seat at the beginning of the season, and if it didn't work out for him, then too bad. So sad. Yuki, you're out. We'll put Liam in or whomever is next. But the fact that they didn't do that, the fact that they put the guy with 11 races in the driver's seat, not the guy with 100 races in the driver's seat, it shows some sort of ulterior motive. I'm not even going to pretend to understand what the ulterior motive is, but it ended in, I would say, political disaster for Red Bull. And one last thing, here's why the number of races is important, because you have to know the track. Full stop. You need to know where the breaking points are. You need to know if it's a late apex, an early apex. You need to know if you need to do a wide turn or a short turn. And a lot of these tracks, especially in racing form, you're not going to get out there in a real car. So you need the races. That is a lot of seat time. It's a lot of time to learn the track. So you need those races because it's an entire race weekend. It's the FP. It's the practices, it's sometimes the sprint races, it's the qualifying. It's a lot of seat time in the car that you're going to drive in the race. And so when they say a lot of races, it's not just like, on the job training. He's got a lot of more experience. It's a very technical endeavor, and you have to memorize the track. You have to know where you're going. That's why people are like, really, 100 races versus 11 races? I'm going to share a couple of memes. I'm not going to walk you through all of them, but the meme that I just kind of wanted to describe, and I will put it on the screen here in a second. There's a meme from F1 memes, leaked Red Bull lineup for the rest of the season, and it shows Verstappen with Liam Lawson for 2 races, Yuki Tsunoda for a couple of races. I don't even know who this guy is. A little bit later on, it shows Checo back. It shows Christian Horner. It shows Sebastian Vettel. It shows Jos Verstappen. It shows Verstappen and Verstappen. And finally, it just shows half of Verstappen, because I guess at that point, he would have just given up. So I'll put that on the screen for your enjoyment, and then I will leave it to you to go and find more memes, because they're plentiful and they're out there. And I've been Dalton. This has been the Petrolist, and you've been great. I'm out.